I didn't know it then, but the morning I signed those papers, June 3, 2018, would become the day my siblings decided I was their enemy. Not right away, not even in the months after our parents passed. But 5 years later, at 7:14 a.m. on a Wednesday, I opened my front door to find a thick, beige envelope sitting on the welcome mat. My name printed on the front in all caps. No return address. Inside, a lawsuit, filed by my own brother and sister. And suddenly, everything snapped into place. The cold calls, the weird questions, the sudden "we should talk" texts. They weren't reaching out to reconnect. They were building a case. But to understand how it all fell apart, I have to go back to the day everything was still normal. It was quiet in my parents' kitchen that June morning. The kind of quiet that feels like it might break if you breathe too loud. Dad sat hunched over the table, 2 mugs of coffee steaming between us. Mom had already gone to her doctor's appointment, leaving Dad in one of his "we need to talk before she gets home" moods. He slid the manila folder toward me. "I want you to buy the house." I blinked. "Dad, that's what? Why? You know Emma and Mark will lose it." He shook his head, jaw tight. "They're not responsible. You are. You've been paying the property taxes for 3 years. You're the only one who visits. You take care of this place." My chest tightened. I'd been helping because I wanted to, not because I expected anything. "And besides," he added, voice dropping, "it keeps the house in the family. That matters to your mother. And to me." I flipped through the folder: purchase price, transfer documents, appraisal. The numbers stopped me cold. "Dad, this is way under value." He didn't blink. "I know. That's the point." I should have said no. Or at least insisted we do it the proper way. But the truth? I just wanted to make things easier for them. They'd worked their whole lives. They deserved a peaceful retirement, not endless arguments with my siblings. So I signed. And 5 years later, my siblings would weaponize that ink against me. The years between felt like a blur. Dad passed in 2020. Mom in 2021. Their deaths came like 2 waves, one heavy, one final. But even then, even in those horrible months, neither sibling brought up the house. Not once. Not until the lawsuit. It accused me of undue influence, fraud,
LD exploitation,
purchasing the house under duress, concealing its true market value. My own flesh and blood painted me like a criminal. The lawsuit stated they were shocked to discover the home was sold far below market price. Shocked. They lived 20 minutes away. They just didn't care until there was money on the table. I sat on the couch, the envelope trembling in my hands. The room felt too small, too hot, too quiet. I could hear the refrigerator humming. Steady, indifferent. My heartbeat wasn't. My phone buzzed. A text from my sister. "Emma, you had to know this was coming."
no explanación, no conversación, no remorse.
Just that. I stared at the words until they blurred. A part of me wanted to call her, scream at her, demand to know why she waited 5 years. But another part, the exhausted, disappointed part, already knew. Money. It was always money. But then something else hit me. How did they suddenly get an attorney? How did they even learn the sale price? Why now? Why after 5 years? Someone had told them something. Someone had given them something. And that thought didn't sit right. Later that afternoon, I drove to the house, my house. The one I'd spent years repairing, painting, maintaining. The one that smelled faintly of fresh-cut grass and old memories. I pulled into the driveway and just sat there. I remembered patching the roof with Dad. I remembered Mom cooking with the kitchen windows cracked open. I remembered Thanksgiving mornings, Christmas lights, birthday candles. And then my phone buzzed again. This time from an unknown number. A single line of text. "Check the appraisal." The real one. I froze. What real one? Dad had given me an appraisal done a few months before I signed. It wasn't inflated. If anything, it was conservative. But this message felt like a crack forming in a wall I didn't even know was brittle. I typed back, Who is this? No answer. I went inside the house, climbed up to the attic, and dug through the old boxes where I kept all the documents. Deeds, tax receipts, the appraisal folder Dad had given me. The folder looked the same. Except one sheet was missing. The initial valuation, the highest one. Dad had replaced it. My stomach dropped. Not because I'd done something wrong, but because I suddenly realized Dad might have been hiding something from someone, and my siblings might have just found out. I sat on the attic floor, dust filling the air like tiny floating secrets, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. And that's when I say this not as a narrator, not as someone crafting a story, but as a human being. If you've ever been blindsided by family, by the people you thought would stand beside you, you know exactly how that moment feels. And if you're going through something like that now, you're not alone. I see you. I left the attic carrying the folder, my mind spinning. Something didn't add up. Dad wasn't careless. He didn't make accidental paperwork changes. If he altered the appraisal, there was a reason. But what? And why hide it from my siblings? It wasn't until I reached the bottom step that I noticed something else. Something small, almost stupid, but so out of place it made every hair on my arm stand up. The hallway closet door was slightly open. I hadn't opened it. I hadn't been here in days. I moved toward it slowly, feeling the weight of the air shift around me. Inside, tucked behind old coats and a box of Christmas ornaments, was a small, dusty fireproof lockbox. One I had never seen before. I lifted it, heavy and ice cold. No key. Whatever was inside, Dad had hidden it for a reason. And if my siblings were willing to sue me after 5 quiet years, then whatever was in this box might be the very thing they were afraid of. I set the lockbox on the kitchen table, my pulse thudding loud in my ears. I didn't know it then, but opening that box would ignite a war none of us were prepared for. And in the end, someone would lose everything. I didn't sleep the night I found the lockbox. Not because I was scared. At least that's what I told myself. But because every time I closed my eyes, I saw my sister's text. You had to know this was coming. I must have read it 100 times, trying to figure out what she thought she knew, what she thought I had done. Because as angry as I was, a part of me kept circling the same question. Why 5 years? People don't sit quietly for half a decade and then suddenly wake up furious. Something or someone had poked the hornet's nest. And looking back now, everything that happened next, maybe I should have walked away. Maybe I should have stayed quiet. But that's not who I am. That's never been who I am. So the next morning, Thursday at exactly 9:12 a.m., I drove straight to my parents' old house with one goal: open the box, find the truth, finally understand the war I was suddenly fighting. I set the lockbox on the kitchen table, the same spot where Dad once rolled out pie dough and lectured me about responsibility. Funny how memories can hurt more than the present. There was no key, but I was desperate. Stupid desperate. I tried a butter knife first. Then the tiny screwdriver from Dad's old toolkit. Nothing. Eventually, frustration turned into adrenaline, and adrenaline turned into a questionable decision involving a flathead screwdriver and too much force. The lock snapped. Inside were 4 things: a sealed envelope with my name, a second envelope labeled, for all 3, a folded, older-looking appraisal, this one much higher than the one Dad used, a small USB drive. My stomach clenched. Whatever this was, Dad meant for me to find it. I opened my envelope first. Dad's handwriting hit me like a punch to the chest. If you're reading this, things went the way I feared. My fingers trembled. I kept reading. I didn't want the house to be another battlefield. I saw the way Emma and Mark were circling even while your mother was sick. I knew what would happen if they learned the full value. You've carried this family for years and they resented you for it. I only gave them what they could handle. Keep the house. Don't let them take it from you. And if they ever come for you, the truth is in the file. I lowered the paper slowly. The room felt smaller, hotter, circling. Dad used that word, circling like vultures. But the phrase that echoed loudest was, if they ever come for you. So he knew. He knew this day would come. I reached for the second envelope, the one addressed to all three of us. But before I opened it, a sound made me freeze. A car door. Then another. Footsteps. Two voices. Too familiar. Emma and Mark. Of course. Of course they'd show up unannounced the day after serving me. I shoved everything back into the lockbox, pushed it under the table with my foot, and straightened my shirt just as the door swung open. Emma didn't even knock. She walked in with the energy of someone trying to look brave but burning with anger. Mark followed, carrying a thick binder under his arm. Probably their evidence. "Morning," I said, forcing calm into my voice. Emma's eyes snapped to mine. "You look surprised. I didn't expect an ambush before breakfast." "We need to talk," Mark said, voice flat. "About the lawsuit?" I asked. "That's part of it," Emma said. "But we want to give you a chance to do the right thing first." I almost laughed. "The right thing according to who?" "According to reality," she snapped. Mark opened the binder and laid it on the counter like he was presenting a murder weapon. Inside, appraisals, property estimates, old emails, tax assessments, half of which they clearly didn't understand. They pointed at numbers they thought proved something, whispered to each other like kids caught cheating on a test. Then Emma said something that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. "We know Dad was pressured into selling." My jaw clenched. "By who?" She stared directly at me. "By you." I felt that, physically, like a sharp, cold blade between my ribs. "You weren't here," I said quietly. "You didn't visit. You didn't help. You didn't even call." She flinched, but only for a second. "We're not here to fight," Mark cut in. "Just return the house to the estate and we'll drop the suit." There it was, the true goal. The money grab dressed as morality. I leaned back against the counter, studying both of them. 5 years, I said. "Why now?" Emma's mouth tightened. "Because someone finally told us the truth." My blood went cold. Someone. Not something. Someone. "Who?" I asked. They both glanced at each other, the kind of glance that says we agreed not to reveal that yet. "We know enough," Mark said. "Enough to prove you manipulated them." I didn't even realize I'd stepped forward until I saw Emma take a half step back. "You don't know anything," I said. "You never did. And Dad tried to protect this family from exactly this." Emma's voice cracked for the first time. "Stop acting like he loved you more." I froze, because there it was. The truth under everything. The jealousy that finally grew teeth. "Leave," I said quietly, but they didn't move. They just kept staring at me, like they were waiting for something. An apology, a confession, a breakdown. I gave them none of it. "Get out," I repeated, and slowly, without another word, they left. The door clicked shut behind them. I locked it. Then I dropped to my knees and pulled the lockbox back out. My pulse hammered in my ears. My hands shook, and I reached for the USB drive. I plugged it into my laptop. A single folder appeared. Recordings. My breath caught. Inside were 12 audio files. Dated. Timestamped. The most recent one, April 4th, 2018. 2 months before Dad asked me to buy the house. I clicked it. A scratch of movement. A cough. Dad's voice. Tired. Strained. And then another voice. Emma. My sister. Arguing about money. Arguing about the house. Accusing Dad of playing favorites. And letting everything go to waste. I covered my mouth, listening as Dad tried, calmly, painfully, to diffuse her. Tried to explain. Tried to say the house wasn't a prize to be fought over. Then the part that made my skin crawl. "Emma. Well, maybe Mark and I should handle things. You're not thinking clearly anyway." "Dad. Don't talk to me like that in my own home." "Emma. We'll see who ends up with it. You can't hide assets forever." I felt sick. I felt angry. I felt betrayed in a way I didn't have words for. Because this wasn't new. This wasn't a sudden concern. This wasn't innocence. This was a plan. A long one. And Dad knew. He recorded everything because he knew. I clicked the next recording. And the next. And the next. And each one peeled back another layer I never wanted to see. Accusations. Manipulation. Threats. Conversations between Emma and Mark about what would happen when they're gone. I sat there, heart pounding, as my family's secrets spilled into my quiet kitchen. And then, file number 7, everything changed. It wasn't Emma's voice. It wasn't Mark's. It was a man, a stranger, talking about the house, talking about options, and then saying the one line that made my blood run cold. Look, if you want the place sold for full value, you need me to talk to him. Parents are easy when they're scared. What the hell? Who was this? Who did my siblings hire? And what did he mean scared? My throat tightened. My chest felt like it was caving in. I didn't know it then, but that voice, the man in that recording, would become the key to everything. The lawsuit, the missing appraisal, the secrets Dad hid. The reason my siblings waited 5 years. And the reason my family was about to explode. Because when I tried to open the next file, it wouldn't play. Just a corrupted error message. File removed. Someone had tried to erase something, but not well enough. I didn't touch the laptop for hours after I saw the corrupted file. I just sat there. Elbows on the table, hands buried in my hair, listening to the quiet hum of the ceiling fan as everything inside me kept twisting tighter and tighter. The recordings had already cracked something open in me. But that missing one? That was different. Someone had deleted it on purpose. Someone had erased something they didn't want me to hear. And the worst part? I already had a sinking suspicion about who. It wasn't until the sun dipped low, around 7:32 p.m., that I finally forced myself to reach for the second envelope from the lockbox. The one addressed, for all 3. Dad never wrote anything lightly. If he left something for all of us, he must have known none of us would ever sit in the same room long enough to read it together. My hands shook as I slid my finger under the seal. The letter was longer than the first. His handwriting looked more uneven, as if written during one of the hard weeks near the end. But the first line took the air right out of my lungs. If you are reading this, it means one of you has attacked the others. My throat tightened. I kept reading. I wish I could say I'm surprised, but I've watched the 3 of you drift apart for years. I tried to fix it. Couldn't. So I'm telling you the truth. The part one know will hurt, but needs to be said. My eyes flicked to the next line. And that's when the letter stopped being a warning and became an earthquake. You were manipulated. All of you. My hands froze. Manipulated? By who? I read faster now, each line hitting harder than the last. There is a man named Russell Hale. He approached Emma first, played on her fears, told her the house was worth more than it was. Then he went to Mark, promised him he could help balance things out if your mother and I agreed to sell. My pulse hammered. A name. Dad gave me a name. Russell. The voice in the recording had to be. Dad continued. I didn't trust him. I told them both to stay away from him. But he kept showing up, kept offering advice, kept creating tension. By the time you bought the house, he had already convinced them you were taking advantage of us. I felt a cold wave crawl down my spine. This wasn't jealousy. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was orchestrated. Dad's next words hit even harder. I warned them he was dangerous. I told them to leave it alone. But by then, they'd stopped listening to anything I said. I had to stop reading. My vision blurred. I pressed the heels of my hands into my eyes, forcing myself to breathe. So all this time, all this hatred, all this venom, was because of him.
Russell Hale.
A man I'd never met. A man who had inserted himself into my family like a parasite. A man whose voice, calm, smug, calculating, whispered through my speakers just hours before. And then I read the final paragraph. The one Dad must have written last. The one where the handwriting shook so badly I could barely decipher it. If they ever come after you, Don't fight them. Fight him. He's the one who told them to wait. He's the one who kept saying the sale could be reversed. And he's the reason I had to hide the true appraisal. Protect yourself. And don't let him near this house again. My chest felt like it was collapsing. Russell told them to wait. 5 years. 5 quiet years. Because some stranger told my siblings to hold off? Why? For what purpose? What was he waiting for? I swallowed hard and forced myself back to the recordings. Specifically the corrupted one. The date on it was different from the rest. May 11th, 2018. 3 weeks before Dad told me to buy the house. That couldn't be coincidence. Something happened that day. Something big enough someone tried to erase it. The letter still open on the table. I clicked the file again. Error. I tried a different program. Error. I tried repairing it manually. Corrupted beyond basic recovery. I stared at the screen, jaw tight. Someone didn't just delete it. They damaged it. Which meant they had access to Dad's files at some point. Which meant they were in the house. Which meant my phone buzzed. A text. From an unknown number. Just like before. But this message was different. 3 words. He's watching you. The room froze around me. Every hair on my arms rose. My pulse spiked. I typed back. Who is this? No response. I reread the message over and over, the fear turning into something else. Something sharper. Rage. Because whether it was a threat, a warning, or a scare tactic, it told me one thing with absolute certainty. Someone was terrified I'd find what they tried to erase. Someone wanted me blind. Which meant that missing recording wasn't just important. It was dangerous. The next morning, Friday, 9:03 a.m., I drove to the attorney handling my parents' old estate files. His office always smelled like stale coffee and paper, and he always called me kid. Even at 39. He looked up from his desk when I came in. You look like hell, he said. Good morning to you too. What's going on? I dropped Dad's letter onto his desk. He read it quietly, his expression shifting from confusion to tension, to something close to worry. When he finished, he sat back. This is serious. I know. And if it's true, he continued, tapping the paper, your sibling's lawsuit isn't just wrong. It's been influenced by someone with an agenda.
Russell Hale.
He nodded slowly. Have you checked your parents' old phone records? Bank statements? Emails? No, I said. Not yet. He slid a small key across the table. What's this? Your dad gave it to me years ago, he said. Told me not to release it unless things went sideways. My skin prickled. What does it open? A storage unit. My breath froze. Storage unit. A place my siblings didn't know about. A place Dad prepared before everything blew up. A place he clearly believed mattered. What's in it? I asked. He shook his head. He never told me. Just said, if they ever turn on each other, this will explain why. Explain why. Explain everything. A chill slid down my spine. Because whatever was inside that unit, Dad didn't trust anyone, including his own children, to see it while he was alive. And that meant one thing. The truth wasn't just painful. It was explosive. I closed my fingers around the key, feeling its cold metal bite into my palm. And in that moment I knew the storage unit wasn't just the next step. It was the turning point. The place where this entire nightmare would either make sense or destroy what was left of my family completely. I drove to the storage facility before I even realized where my hands were taking me. The key sat on the passenger seat, catching the morning light like it wanted to burn a hole straight through the upholstery. It was 10:41 a.m. when I pulled into the lot. A row of identical orange doors stretched out like a lineup of secrets. Unit A17, that's what the attorney had written on the post-it note attached to the key. My stomach twisted. Dad had paid for this place for years, and never told any of us. And if that didn't tell me exactly how bad things had gotten back then, the silence of the corridor did. Thick, cold, like the air itself was holding its breath. I walked to A17. The padlock was old but polished. Dad always kept things clean. Even his secrets. My hand trembled as I slid the key into the lock. Clicked. A soft, final sound. I lifted the door. The metal rattled up, echoing through the hall. What I saw inside, it wasn't what I expected. Not even close. The unit wasn't packed. It wasn't cluttered. It wasn't stuffed with old furniture or boxes of sentimental junk. It was organized. Disturbingly organized. A metal shelf stood against the back wall, filled with labeled binders and envelopes. 3 boxes on the floor. A single chair. A small table with a digital recorder placed neatly at the center. Like Dad had been here. Recently. Like he used this place. A chill crawled up my spine. I stepped inside. The air smelled faintly of dust and cedar. Dad always added a cedar block to his storage. His little rituals. I picked up the top binder. A label in Dad's handwriting read, "Appraisals, real value." My breath caught. I sat on the chair, flipped the binder open, and there it was, 5 appraisals. All dated within a 3-month window. All significantly higher than the one Dad used during the sale. The average market estimate? 3 times the price he sold it to me for. I leaned back, stunned. Dad didn't hide the home's value by mistake. He did it intentionally, to protect me from them. But then, the next page made my blood run cold. It wasn't an appraisal. It was a letter, not written by Dad. Typed, signed. Consultation summary, R. Hale Real Estate Services. My pulse stuttered. Russell. This was him. The summary detailed a strategic delay approach to maximize inheritance outcomes. And at the bottom, a line that nearly knocked the breath out of me. Recommendation. Advise heirs to contest intrafamily sale after parental passing for optimal reversal potential. I felt like I was going to be sick. This man didn't just meddle. He planned this, strategized it, prepared my siblings like chess pieces. Dad must have found out. That's why the binder existed. That's why the real appraisals were hidden. That's why Dad begged me not to let this man near our family again. I closed the binder slowly, my hands shaking. Then I reached for the digital recorder. It had 1 file on it. Just one. A 17 record 1. I pressed play. Static. A soft shuffle. Then Dad's voice, hoarse but steady. If you're hearing this, something went wrong. My throat tightened. I tried to warn them. I tried to keep him away. But he wants the house. Not for them. For himself. A long pause. He told Emma things that weren't true. He told Mark lies about the sale. He told them both to wait until your mother and I were gone. My stomach dropped. He did tell them to wait. Dad continued, quieter. He's not working for them. He's working for someone else. I don't know who. A noise in the background like a door opening. Dad's breathing quickened. If anything happens to me, check the large envelope on the bottom shelf. And don't trust. A sharp sound. A bang. Dad gasping, startled. Then the recording cut out abruptly. I froze. The last word never came. Don't trust who? I stood so quickly the chair screeched backward across the floor. My heart slammed against my ribs. I scanned the bottom shelf. 1 large envelope. Just one. With my parents' names on it. My fingers fumbled as I opened it. Inside were legal papers, copies of checks, emails, meeting notes, a contract signed by someone named Winston Harlow, and a business card for our Hale Property Recovery Services. But there was something else tucked behind the documents. A handwritten note. Not from Dad. From Mom. Just 5 words. 5 words that changed everything. He threatened your father. Twice. The room tilted. My knees buckled. I sat back down, the letter shaking in my hands. Dad wasn't just protecting me. He wasn't just hiding the value. He wasn't just recording conversations. He was scared. He was threatened. And he left all of this behind because he knew One day this man would pull my siblings into a war none of us were prepared for. I wiped my eyes with the heel of my hand. I wasn't just dealing with a lawsuit. I was dealing with a predator. One who had been circling my family for years. And if what Dad said in that recording was true, Hale wasn't working alone. Someone else wanted the house. Someone powerful enough that Dad couldn't even speak their name before the recording cut off. I took the envelope, the binders, the recorder, everything, and packed them into a box. But just as I stood to leave, my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. A voicemail. I pressed play. A man's voice, smooth, familiar, dripped through the speaker. "You're digging in the wrong places. Stop before someone gets hurt." My blood ran ice cold. It was him.
Russell Hale.
And he knew exactly where I'd been. I didn't drive straight home after hearing Hale's voicemail. Couldn't. My hands were shaking too badly. My chest felt tight, like someone was pressing a fist between my ribs. I pulled into a grocery store parking lot, killed the engine, and just sat there, listening to the silence, staring at the dark screen of my phone. He knew. He knew where I'd been. He knew I'd opened the storage unit. And the worst part? He sounded calm, confident, like a man who'd done this before. I should have called the police. I should have gone to my attorney. I should have done anything except sit there, frozen, while 1,000 questions clawed at my mind. How long had he been watching us? How much did he know? And how far was he willing to go? I didn't know it then. But by the end of the night, I'd have my answer. It was close to midnight, 11:58 p.m. When I finally pulled into my driveway. The house looked different in the dark. Smaller, more vulnerable, like it knew something was coming. I carried the box of documents inside, locking both the deadbolt and the chain. Paranoia? Maybe. But at that moment, paranoia felt like survival. I set the box on the dining table. Dad's recorder sat on top, a silent witness to everything I didn't understand yet. I told myself I was going to bed. I told myself I'd deal with everything in the morning. But then, just as I turned off the hallway light, someone knocked on my door. 3 sharp, frantic bangs. My breath caught. Nobody knocks at midnight unless something's wrong. I hesitated before checking the peephole. And when I did, my entire body went cold. Emma, my sister, standing on my porch in pajamas and a hoodie, her face pale, her eyes rimmed red like she'd been crying for hours. She looked terrified. I unlocked the door and cracked it open. "Emma? What?" She pushed past me, slamming the door shut behind her. "I can't stay long," she whispered, wiping her face with her sleeve. "Mark can't know I came." My pulse spiked. "What's going on?" She didn't answer, just paced, back and forth, breathing too fast. When she finally spoke, her voice broke. "I think we made a mistake."
Hier.
My anger from earlier shredded by confusion. "What mistake?" She shook her head. "Not mistake. More like, God, I don't even know. Something's wrong. Really wrong." I stepped closer. "Emma, talk to me." For a moment, she just stood there, fingers twisting the hem of her hoodie, like she was trying to wring the fear out of it. Then she said the words I never expected to hear. "Russell came to see us tonight." My heartbeat stuttered. "Here? In town?" She nodded weakly. "He said the lawsuit was taking too long. He said we needed to push harder." "Push harder how?" Emma swallowed hard. "He told Mark there were other ways to get what we wanted." My blood turned to ice. "Other ways?" "Emma," I said carefully, "what exactly did he say?" She looked up at me then, eyes wide, glossy, terrified. "He told Mark you weren't cooperating, and that maybe you didn't deserve to keep the house at all." I froze. Everything inside me froze. "Wait," I whispered. "Are you saying he threatened me?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The truth was written all over her face. I pressed my palms against the table, grounding myself. "Did Dad ever tell you not to trust him?" Emma flinched. "Dad didn't like him. but I didn't know why. Not until tonight. What happened tonight? I asked softly. For a moment she looked like a kid. Our kid version. The one who used to hide in my room during thunderstorms. She took a shaky breath. He came to our house. He wasn't supposed to. He just showed up. No warning. What did he want? To talk to us, she whispered. But he didn't want to talk. He wanted to scare us. I leaned closer. Tell me exactly what he said. She closed her eyes, voice cracking. He said if we didn't win the lawsuit, someone else would take the house. Someone who already has a claim on it. A chill crawled slowly up my spine. A claim? I asked. Emma nodded. From who? But before she could answer, before she could even breathe, a phone buzzed loudly in her hoodie pocket. She froze, checked the screen, and every drop of color drained from her face. It's him, she whispered. My stomach twisted. Don't answer. But she was already backing away from me, panic flaring in her eyes. No, if I don't answer, he'll come here. He said he would if I ignored him. Emma, wait. But she was shaking her head, fumbling for the door, tears spilling down her cheeks. I shouldn't have come. I shouldn't be here. He said you'd ruin everything. Emma, stop. Listen to me. She pulled the door open. A cold wind swept in. She stepped out onto the porch, hoodie pulled tight around her. Then she turned back to me, eyes wide, voice barely a whisper.
I'm sorry.
I didn't know what he was until it was too late. What he was? I repeated. Emma, what are you talking about? Who is he working for? She opened her mouth, but she never got a chance to answer. Her phone buzzed again, louder, more urgent. She flinched, then ran down the steps toward her car, like fear itself was chasing her. Emma, I shouted. She didn't look back. She sped off, tail lights disappearing into the dark. I stood there alone on the porch, heart pounding, her words echoing through my skull. Someone else has a claim on the house. Someone worse than Hale. But then I realized something. Something small. Something chilling. She never said the name. She didn't dare. And whatever terrified her enough to come to me at midnight wasn't Hale. It was the person behind him. The person Dad couldn't name before the recording cut off. And now they knew I was digging. I barely slept after Emma's visit. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. Pale, trembling, terrified of someone she refused to name. And that last thing she said, it was too late. Too late for what? Too late for who? By sunrise, my head felt heavy, my thoughts jagged and sharp. I knew I needed help. Real help. So I did the only thing that made sense. I grabbed the box from the storage unit and drove straight to my attorney's office. It was 8:03 a.m. He wasn't even open yet. But when he saw me standing at his door with that box in my hands, he didn't ask questions. He just unlocked the door, stepped aside, and said, "Sit. Tell me everything." I dumped the contents of the storage unit box across his desk. Papers, recordings, binders, letters. Everything Dad never meant to surface until now. My attorney's eyes widened as he sifted through the files. "When did you get all this?" he asked. "Yesterday," I said. "And last night, Emma came by." He didn't look up. "Is she calming down?" "No," I said. "She's scared. Really scared." He stopped reading, slowly lifted his eyes. "Scared of what?" I swallowed. "Someone behind Hale." He leaned back in his chair. "You think your father knew who it was?" "More than that," I said quietly. "I think he recorded it, and someone deleted it." I pulled out the corrupted file from the USB drive. He plugged it into his computer, frowned at the error. Then he did something I didn't expect. He pulled out an old external hard drive and connected the USB to a recovery program I'd never seen him use before. "What is that?" I asked. "A tool my firm uses when clients accidentally delete things that could get them arrested," he said dryly. I blinked. My attorney had layers I never knew about. He clicked a few more buttons. The recovery bar started moving slowly, painfully slowly. I paced behind him, back and forth, back and forth. After a few minutes, he opened one file, something buried deep in the corrupted sectors. Not the recording, not yet, but something else. Hold on, he murmured, leaning closer to the screen. What? I asked, heart thudding. He zoomed in on a line of text, metadata, the kind of background information most people never even see. But this one line was crystal clear. User who last modified file, M. Harlow. I stopped breathing. Harlow, my attorney said under his breath. Where have I seen that name? I knew exactly where he'd seen it. I reached into the box, grabbed the contract from the storage unit, and slammed it on the desk. Here, I said. Dad had this. Someone named Winston Harlow signed it. He froze. I froze. Everything in the room went silent. Harlow.
Hale.
Two names that were too close to be coincidence. My attorney spoke first. Voice low, cautious. Do you know who Winston Harlow is? I shook my head.
No.
Do you? He nodded. And the way he nodded made my stomach twist. Winston Harlow is a developer, he said. Not small-time. Major. He buys distressed homes, especially ones tied up in legal disputes. My heart pounded. He fights in court until the family gets tired, he continued. Then buys the property for pennies. That sounds like Hale's manipulation, I said. Because it is, he replied. Hale works for him. Quietly. Off the books. The room seemed to tilt. The air felt heavy again. Your father wasn't afraid of Hale, he said. He was afraid of the man Hale works for. Why would Harlow want this house? I demanded. My parents' home isn't worth that much. My attorney gave me a long, tired look. You haven't checked the county's redevelopment plan, have you? I stared at him. What redevelopment plan? He pulled up a map on his computer, zoomed in, then pointed. Your parents' house sits on the edge of a future commercial zone. In 5 years, the land value has tripled. 5 years. The exact amount of time Hale told my siblings to wait. The lawsuit wasn't random. The timing wasn't random. The disappearance of the real appraisal wasn't random. Everything was orchestrated so one man could swoop in and buy the house once it hit maximum value. I swallowed hard. So my siblings were manipulated into doing the dirty work? Yes, he said. And based on what I'm seeing, I'd bet everything I own that Harlow planned for them to destroy each other in court until you were all too exhausted to fight. My stomach twisted. It wasn't just greed. It was strategy. Your father knew, he added. He knew they were being played. I sank into the chair, the weight of everything pressing down on me. That's why the recordings exist, he said. He was building a trail in case something happened. Something did happen. Dad tried to warn us, tried to protect us, and someone silenced him. Before I could speak, the recovery program beeped. A window popped up. One file recovered, partially damaged, not fully lost. My attorney clicked it. A waveform appeared. The recording began. Static. Then Dad's voice, strained, breathless. If anything happens to me, the person behind all of this is. A loud thud, a muffled shout. Not Dad's voice. A stranger. A man. Deep, cold, controlled. You talk too much, old man. My blood ran ice cold. Then the recording cut off. My attorney leaned forward, eyes wide. That's not Hale, he said slowly.
No, he whispered.
It's worse. I didn't know it then, but I just heard the voice of the man who'd been circling us for years. The man Dad feared. The man Emma refused to name. The man who expected to own the house by now. Winston Harlow. And if that recording was real, then my father didn't just fear him. He confronted him. And someone didn't want the truth getting out. But the moment that truly broke me, twisted everything I thought I knew, came when my attorney grabbed one more document from the box. something I'd somehow missed. A photocopy of my father's will. Dated 3 weeks before the sale. He slid it toward me. I scanned the text. And there, underlined in ink, was a clause Dad added himself. In the event of a legal dispute involving the property, refer to the evidence stored in Unit A-17. My hands shook. Dad didn't trust the system. He didn't trust my siblings. He didn't trust Hale. He didn't trust Harlow. He trusted me. And whatever he uncovered before he died, it wasn't just ugly. It was dangerous. My attorney closed the folder. Whatever happens next, he said softly, you need to be careful. I stared at him. Careful. I whispered. Of who? He didn't hesitate. Harlow. And the people he hires. My pulse spiked. I reached for my phone. One missed text. Unknown number. A single sentence. Stop searching, or she'll pay for your mistake. Emma. My blood turned cold. If Hale's warning was subtle, this wasn't. This was a threat. And I wasn't the only target anymore. I didn't breathe for a full 5 seconds. Not after reading that text. Stop searching, or she'll pay for your mistake. Emma. Every instinct in me, the big brother instinct, the protector instinct, the part of me that used to take her hand when she was scared of thunderstorms, flared to life. I showed my attorney the message. He went pale. This isn't just intimidation anymore, he said quietly. This is extortion. Maybe worse. I stood up so fast the chair scraped across the floor. I need to find her, I said. Right now. He didn't argue. Didn't try to stop me. He just said, take the recordings. All of them. And take the binder from the lockbox. I shoved everything into my bag and headed for the door. But before I could leave, he called after me. Wait. I turned. He held out a small flash drive. What's that? A backup of the recovered file, he said. If anything happens, you'll want proof. His voice, steady but strained, hit me harder than he probably meant it to. If anything happens. We both heard the fear beneath those 3 words. I nodded, pocketed the drive, and left. It was almost dusk by the time I reached Emma's house. Her car was in the driveway, lights on inside, but something felt wrong. Too quiet, too still. I knocked. No answer. I tried the handle. Unlocked. I pushed the door open slowly. Emma? I called. It's me. Silence. The living room was tidy. Too tidy. Like a staged space in a realtor's photo. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. Screen cracked. Voicemail notifications lighting up. The tension in my chest tightened. I checked the hallway. Bathroom. Empty. Bedroom. Empty. Guest room. Empty. Then I saw it near the back door. A chair knocked over. A mug shattered on the tile. Something had happened here. My pulse picked up speed. I called her name again. Louder, panicked now. Still nothing. I grabbed her phone and hit redial on the last missed call. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then someone answered. Not Emma. A man. Calm. Slow. That calculated steadiness I'd heard in the corrupted recording. You should have listened. My stomach dropped. Harlow? I asked. Soft laughter. Smart boy. Just like your father. My grip tightened. Where is she? Another small laugh, as if I'd told a joke he'd already heard. She's safe for now, he said. Safer than she was with you. My blood boiled. You touch her, I swear. You swear what? He interrupted. There was no anger in his voice. Just amusement. Like hurting my family was a game. You think this is about her? He continued. It never was. Your sister is impatient and emotional, but she's useful. As long as she stays quiet. Let her go. Stop digging, he said simply. And I will. My breath hitched. That's not a deal. It's the only one you're going to get. Then, click. Call ended. I stared at the phone, heart thundering so hard it hurt. I should have broken something. Screamed. Thrown the phone against the wall. Instead, I exhaled a single shaky breath. He slipped. Not by much, but enough. He said Emma was useful. He needed her to stay quiet. Quiet about what? What did she know? What had she almost told me last night? Something in my peripheral vision caught my eye. A familiar blue folder sticking halfway out of Emma's desk drawer. I pulled it free. Inside was a printout of an email chain. Not from her. Not from Mark. From Hale. And the subject line? Meeting minutes for Mr. Harlow only. My blood ran cold. Emma had copies. She had saved them. And she didn't destroy them because she was planning to show someone. Maybe me. Maybe her attorney. Maybe she'd finally seen what Dad had tried to warn us about. Hand trembling, I scanned the pages. The emails revealed dates of secret meetings, discussions about timeline alignment, instructions on how to stoke familial resentment, bullet points on how to frame the sale as fraudulent, a projected revenue model, Harlow's profit if he acquired the property. And the worst line of all, once both parents are deceased, have heirs file civil suit. Keep them divided at all costs. My vision blurred. Dad was right. Every fear he wrote about, every recording, every hidden envelope, they weren't paranoia. They were a map, a warning. And the man behind all of it had just taken my sister, because she finally saw the truth. I sat down hard on the couch, the papers shaking in my hands. Then my phone buzzed. Not a number. A video file. Sent from Emma's phone. My throat tightened as I pressed play. Static at first. Then a dim warehouse. Concrete floor. A single metal chair. Emma. Tied at the wrists.
Bret ihn fest.
Eyes wide with terror. And behind her, in the shadows, a figure stepped forward just enough for the light to catch the edge of his face. Harlow. He leaned down to her ear and said, "Tell your brother to stop, or you'll both lose more than a house." The video ended. My entire world narrowed to a single point of rage. No more fear. No more hesitation. No more pretending this was a family dispute. "This is bigger than the lawsuit," I whispered. And then I saw it. A detail in the video I almost missed the first time. On the wall behind Emma, a number. Spray-painted in red. 14B. I knew that building. Everyone in our town did. The old freight warehouse. 2 miles away. She was close. Alive. Scared. Waiting. And Harlow wanted me to find her. But not to save her. To stop digging. To surrender. I stood up, grabbed the recordings, the flash drive, the binder, everything, and headed for the door. Because he made one mistake. He underestimated how far I'd go to protect my family. He thought I'd break. He thought I'd fold. He didn't know me at all. I didn't remember driving to the old freight warehouse. I didn't remember the stoplights, the turns, the way my hands kept tightening on the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. All I remember is the sound of my heartbeat. Loud, steady, violent, echoing in my ears like a warning. It was 9:14 p.m. when I pulled behind the warehouse. The lot was empty. Too empty. The place looked abandoned. Rusted metal siding, shattered windows, weeds curling through cracks in the pavement. But the faint glow coming from one of the upper windows told me otherwise. Someone was here, and they wanted me to know it. I sat in the car for another 30 seconds, forcing myself to breathe. Slowly in, slowly out. Harlow didn't send that video for leverage. He sent it as a trap. And I was walking straight inside anyway. Because family does that. Sometimes stupidly, sometimes blindly, sometimes against every natural instinct we have. But we do it. And Emma, she needed me. I grabbed the binder, the recording device, the USB, and the printouts of the emails. If I died in there, someone would find them. Someone would know the truth. I tucked everything into my jacket and stepped out of the car, the night air sharp against my skin. The back door of the warehouse hung crookedly on its hinges. I pushed it open. The air inside was cold, smelled like rust and mildew and something faintly chemical. Water dripped somewhere deeper in the building. A soft, rhythmic tap.
Top, top, top.
Each footstep echoed. My breath puffed out in small white clouds. Emma, I whispered. No response. I moved slowly, checking corners, every instinct telling me something was watching me from the dark. Shadows shifted across the concrete floor, long and sharp. When I reached the inner hall, I saw it. Spray paint on the wall. 14B. He left me directions. Like breadcrumbs into a nightmare. I followed the arrow. The closer I got, the colder the air became. Unnatural cold, like the heat had been deliberately sucked from this one corridor. Another arrow. Then another. Then another. And finally, the rusted door at the end of the hall. 14B. Faded but still visible. My pulse hammered. I pressed my ear to the metal. Silence. Maybe too much silence. My hand hovered over the handle. I knew the rules of traps.
Open door is gelijk aan danger.
Closed door equals danger. Either way, I was going in. I pushed the door open. The hinges screamed. Inside was a wide room lit by a single flickering bulb swinging from the ceiling. And in the center, a chair, ropes, duct tape on the ground. But no Emma. My stomach dropped. For a moment, all I heard was my own breathing, shallow, ragged. Then a voice cut through the emptiness. Not Emma's. A man's. Smooth, cold, confident. You're late.
Ispun.
Harlow stepped out from behind a stack of crates like he'd been waiting for applause. Slick hair, expensive coat, the smirk of a man who'd never been told no in his life. I hated him immediately, not like an enemy, like a violation. Where is she? I demanded. He gave a small shrug. She's not here. You sent me a video. I sent you a message, he corrected. She was never in danger. You were. I clenched my fists. You threatened her. I warned you, he said calmly. Don't confuse the two. Rage flared through me, hot, blinding, but I forced myself to stay still. Why us? I asked. Why this house? His smile widened. Finally, he said, you're asking the right question. He walked in a slow circle around the room, like a lecturer admiring his own brilliance. Your father's house sits on a redevelopment corridor, he said. Once the rezoning goes through, it will triple again, maybe quadruple. Developers would kill for that land. You mean you would? His smirk twitched. You know what your father's mistake was? He trusted the wrong people, I said. No, he said softly. He underestimated how badly your siblings wanted to feel equal to you. The words hit deep. He saw it on my face. Smirk sharpened. Oh, they never told you? He asked lightly. The years of resentment? The way they hated how your parents leaned on you? The way they thought you got everything? I didn't respond. He didn't need me to. He could see the truth in my silence. You were the responsible one, he continued. The one they called in emergencies. The one they trusted with everything. He stepped closer. People like you always assume others see it that way too. His voice dropped. They don't. I swallowed hard. Even now, even knowing his manipulation, part of me felt the sting of that truth. You told them to wait 5 years, I said. Why? His eyes glinted. Because once both parents were gone, the sale could be challenged. A long game, yes, but profitable. I took a step forward. You threatened my dad. I warned him, he corrected again. You deleted the recording. He smiled. Oh, that was sloppy of me. He fought harder than I expected. My pulse roared. You said you'd hurt Emma. He raised a brow. I said she'd pay for your mistakes. Not mine. I lunged forward. Instinct, rage, something animalistic. But he lifted a hand. Before you do something stupid, he said, you should know something. He reached into his coat and tossed something onto the floor. A phone. Emma's phone. I grabbed it. The home screen lit up. A new message. A video. I hesitated, then pressed play. Emma was sitting in a motel room, alive, unharmed, looking exhausted but very much okay. She held up today's newspaper. I'm safe, she said. Mark picked me up. We checked into a motel. I didn't want to tell you because I thought he'd follow me. The video ended. I stared at the screen, stunned. Harlow leaned casually against the wall. You see, he said. I didn't touch her. I didn't need to. Fear is a far better tool. You dragged her into this. No, he said simply. She walked into it. I opened the door. She stepped through. Rage rose again. Fierce, molten, impossible to hold back. But something else dawned on me at the same time. Something bigger. Something that made my anger sharpen into something deadly focused. He slipped. Again. You said the sale could be challenged, I said slowly. But only if both parents had passed. That's right, he said. So how did you know Mom was going to die when you first approached Emma? The smirk vanished. Just for a second. But I saw it. A crack. A fracture. A truth slipping out the same way it did in the corrupted recording. Dad didn't just fear him. Dad suspected him. Maybe more. Harlow recovered quickly, but it was too late. I stepped forward. You didn't predict my parents' deaths, I said. You counted on them. His eyes darkened. And that, he said softly, is exactly the kind of accusation that will get you killed. Cold wave hit my spine. He stepped closer. Too close. His voice a whisper right near my ear. Walk away. Sign over the property. End the lawsuit. And everyone lives quietly. And if I don't? His breath brushed my cheek. He stepped back, smiling like a man who'd already won. Choose wisely, he said. Then he walked past me, unhurried, as if the entire warehouse belonged to him. At the door, he paused and glanced over his shoulder. Oh, he added. Your siblings think you're hiding something from them. They'll be reaching out soon. Be careful what you tell them. The door slammed shut behind him. The bulb flickered. And for a long time, I stood in the middle of that cold, empty room, heart pounding, his threats echoing like gunshots in my chest. Then, like a knife slid between my ribs, another truth hit. Tomorrow was Discovery Day in court. The day all evidence would be exchanged. The day everything became public. And now I had something that would destroy their entire case. The recordings, the emails, the metadata proving file tampering, the proof of manipulation, the motive, the man behind it all. But there was one more thing, one detail from that video, small and easy to miss. Behind Emma in the motel room, on the TV screen, a channel, local news, live, meaning she was close, in town, meaning she was still in danger, even if she didn't realize it. I turned off the light and started toward the exit. Because I understood something now. Harlow didn't want the house. He wanted the land, the leverage, the power. And the only thing more dangerous than a man like him winning was a man like him realizing he was about to lose. I barely slept the night before Discovery Day. Not because of fear, at least not the normal kind. It was something deeper, a trembling under my skin, like my body already knew the next 24 hours were going to break something open that none of us could ever put back together again. I kept replaying Harlow's words in that warehouse. Your siblings think you're hiding something. Choose wisely. He wanted me off balance, afraid, distracted. But what he didn't understand, what he'd never understand, was that fear sharpens me. Always has. By 7:28 a.m., I was in the courthouse parking lot, gripping the folder of evidence so tight the edges were digging crescents into my palms. Inside the folder were things that could ruin him, and maybe ruin my siblings too, because innocence wasn't something any of us had anymore. The courthouse hallway was buzzing. Attorneys in suits, clerks hauling stacks of boxes, the polite hum of legal brutality about to begin. My attorney arrived minutes later, breathless, carrying 3 large binders. You brought everything? He asked. I nodded. And you're sure you want to use it all today? Once we reveal this, there's no turning back. Dad tried to protect us, I said softly. I'm done letting someone spit on that. He looked at me in a long, quiet way, like he was searching for the little boy he once knew years ago when he handled our family's simple estate paperwork. "You've changed," he said. "Not enough," I replied. "But today, I might have to." He didn't argue. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Not like the TV ones. More fluorescent lighting. Less drama. Or less visible drama. Because inside me, a storm. Mark and Emma sat at the plaintiff's table. Emma wouldn't meet my eyes. Mark glared at me like I'd personally set fire to his life. Their attorney, a man with a shark smile, kept flipping through his folder, pretending he didn't know this was all built on a foundation of lies. When I sat down at the defense table, Emma finally looked up. Her eyes were swollen, red, guilty, but she didn't speak. She didn't even mouth "I'm sorry." She just looked away again, like she wasn't sure what role she was supposed to play. Victim? Traitor? Pawn? I honestly didn't know anymore. The judge entered. We rose. We sat. Formalities blurred. I kept my hand on the folder. Felt like a heartbeat. Discovery Day meant both sides formally exchanged evidence. Everything came out. Every document. Every claim. Every lie. The Shark Smile attorney stood first. "Your Honor," he began, "we have reason to believe that the defendant," he shot me a look, "manipulated his elderly parents into selling their primary residence for a grossly undervalued amount, constituting elder exploitation and fraud." I felt my jaw tighten. My attorney didn't move. The shark continued. "Furthermore, we have assembled appraisals, statements, and behavioral witnesses who can testify to the defendant's undue influence." My attorney finally spoke. "No objection to exchanging materials, Your Honor, but we believe the plaintiffs will find our evidence clarifying." The judge nodded. "Let's proceed." And just like that, everything I'd been holding inside for weeks, years really was placed onto that table. Recordings, emails, contracts, metadata, Dad's letters, Mom's note, the altered appraisal, the recovered file of the confrontation with Harlow. All of it. The shark paused mid-sentence when he saw the stack. "What is all this?" he asked, voice tightening. My attorney leaned back casually. "Evidence of third-party coercion, financial manipulation, fraud, and witness tampering." The room shifted. People stopped pretending not to listen. "What third party?" the shark asked. I looked directly at him. "Winston Harlow," I said. Everything froze. Emma inhaled sharply. Mark frowned, confused. The shark blinked like someone had slapped him. "I'm sorry, who?" The judge leaned forward. "Is this a new witness?" "Not a witness," my attorney said. "The architect." Mark slammed his palm on the table. "What the hell does that mean?" I looked at him evenly. "It means you were played." The shark snapped. "Your Honor, I object to this narrative." But the judge raised a hand. "Let them speak. This is discovery." I slid the email printouts across the table toward my siblings. Emma reached for them with shaking hands. Mark snatched one. They scanned the documents, the bullet points, the meeting notes, the keep heirs divided line, the timeline for contesting the sale, the profit projections. Mark's face went pale, then red. This can't be real." "It is," I said quietly. "Dad knew. He recorded everything. He hid everything so you'd be safe." Emma whispered. "He tried to tell us." I opened the folder and pulled out Dad's second letter, the one addressed to all three of us. I slid it forward. "Read this." Emma's hands trembled as she picked it up. Mark read over her shoulder. Their expressions changed slowly. Anger turning to confusion. Confusion turning to shock. Shock turning to something much heavier. Guilt. My attorney handed the opposing side the recovered USB. "Play file number 4, he said. The shark attorney hesitated. "Play it," the judge ordered. Static crackled through the courtroom speakers. Then Dad's voice, tired, strained, filled the room. "If anything happens to me, the person behind all of this is..." Then the thud. Then the stranger's voice. You talk too much, old man. Emma gasped. Mark's lips parted but no sound came out. The shark scrambled. This could be fabricated. It's not. My attorney cut in. We recovered it from a damaged file your client's associate attempted to erase. Associate? The shark barked. Yes, my attorney said.
Herhale.
Who your clients met with multiple times. We have emails. He pointed at the stack. Mark shook his head violently.
No.
Hale said he was helping us. He said. He lied. I said softly. Then I turned to Emma. You came to my house because you finally figured it out, didn't you? Her eyes filled. She nodded barely. Mark looked between us. Betrayed. You talked to him? Behind my back. Emma whispered. He threatened us, Mark. Mark's face twisted. Anger, confusion, fear. Mixing into one expression I'd never seen on my brother before. The judge broke the silence. Mr. and Ms. Conway, my siblings. Do you dispute the authenticity of these recordings and documents? Emma folded, like a house collapsing on itself. No, she whispered. We didn't know. We thought. Her voice cracked. We thought he was trying to help us. Mark didn't answer. He couldn't. He was staring at the table, at the evidence, at the fact that everything he believed, everything he fought for, was built on a manipulative stranger's lies. The judge turned to the shark attorney. Counsel. His voice came out thin. Your Honor, we need a recess. My attorney stood. We don't. The judge nodded. It is clear to this court that new information has emerged demonstrating interference, manipulation, and an attempt to instigate litigation for financial gain. This will require a full evidentiary review. Then she added something I didn't expect. Something that changed everything. In light of these revelations, I am freezing the plaintiff's case pending investigation into third-party coercion. Emma covered her mouth. Mark slumped back in his seat, staring at nothing. The shark attorney sat down hard, face drained of color. Discovery Day didn't just damage their case. It obliterated it. But it wasn't over. Not even close. Because just as court adjourned, a bailiff hurried in with a folded note. For the defendant, he said. I took it, opened it. 5 words, written in a sharp, deliberate hand. You should have walked away. The room spun. Harlow knew. He was watching. He was waiting. And now that his plan was falling apart, he wasn't going to let me win quietly. Emma squeezed my arm, voice trembling. What do we do now? I looked toward the courthouse exit, toward the world outside, toward the war still coming. We go to the police, I said. But even as I said it, a cold certainty slid down my spine. Harlow wasn't done. Not by miles. I always thought the worst day of my life would be the day we buried my parents. I was wrong. It was the day after Discovery Day. The day the mask finally fell off every person who'd been hiding in the shadows. And the day I realized my father had been fighting a battle long before any of us knew it existed. I walked out of the courthouse holding the note Harlow sent me. You should have walked away. 5 small words. 5 small cuts. My attorney hovered beside me, scanning the parking lot like he expected someone to come charging out of the shadows. Police first, he said. Right now. I nodded, but my heart wasn't in it. Fear had become a constant hum under my skin, a vibration I couldn't turn off. Before we reached our cars, my phone buzzed. An unknown number again. I braced myself. Another threat, another warning, another reminder that I was in a game I never wanted to play. But it wasn't a threat. It was a video. I froze. My attorney took a step closer. What is it? I opened the video. I wish I hadn't. It showed my parents' old house, the place Dad begged me to keep safe. Shot from across the street. My front window. My porch. My living room light glowing. A man stepped into the frame. Not Harlow. Worse.
Russell Hale.
He looked straight into the camera, adjusted his jacket, and walked toward my house. I felt my stomach collapse inward. "He's there," I whispered. "At the house. Now. We need to call 911, my attorney said. But I was already stepping back, shaking my head.
No.
"No, if he's there, I need to go." "Absolutely not." But there was no force on earth that would have stopped me. Not now. Not after everything that man had done to my family. I didn't tell my siblings. I didn't wait. I drove.
Fast.
Too fast. All the while, that video replayed in my mind. Hale walking toward my home like he owned it. Like he belonged there. Like he'd been there before. And suddenly pieces clicked. Sharp, painful pieces. The corrupted file. The missing appraisal. The lockbox someone had tried to open before me. The storage unit key Dad trusted only to his lawyer. The voicemail telling me he was watching. This wasn't all recent. He'd been in my house before. It was dusk when I pulled into my driveway. My porch light flicked on with a soft hum. The world felt painfully quiet. Too quiet. I stepped out of the car, every muscle coiled tight. "Hale!" I shouted into the stillness. "I'm here." The only answer was the wind brushing through the hedges. I walked slowly toward the front door, each step heavier than the last. Then, a sound. A creak. Inside the house. Every instinct in me screamed run. But I wasn't running. Not from him. Not anymore. I opened the door. My living room was dim, illuminated only by the lamp I'd left on earlier. The air felt wrong, like someone had been standing there just moments ago. Then I saw it. A figure in the kitchen doorway.
Hale.
He wasn't armed. He wasn't hiding. He stood there casually, hands in his pockets like he was waiting for a friend. "You're early," he said. "Get out." He tilted his head slightly, assessing me. "Your father said that too. Right before he—" "Don't," I snapped. "Don't say his name." He smiled, small, patronizing. "This would have gone much easier if you'd simply admitted you weren't entitled to the house." "Entitled," I repeated. "They were my parents." "Were," he corrected. Past tense. A deep, violent cold spread through my chest. "Why us?" I asked. "Why this house?" His smile widened. "Because your father refused to sell it. And your mother refused to move. They were stubborn, sentimental people. Easily manipulated but difficult to control." My fists clenched. "And you?" I asked. "Me?" He shrugged. "I simply capitalized on opportunity." I stepped forward. "You mean you exploited my siblings?" "I gave them what they wanted," he said. "Validation. Someone to tell them they deserved more. And they believed me because envy makes people stupid." I swallowed hard. "Where's Harlow?" I asked. A flicker crossed his face. "Harlow handles larger matters. I handle people." "So you're the middleman," I said. He smirked. "I'm the one who gets things done." I inched closer. "And what exactly were you told to get done tonight?" He didn't answer, but the way his eyes flicked to the hallway, toward my father's old study, told me everything. He planted something. Evidence. A threat. Something meant to destroy me. I lunged. Hale stumbled back, slamming into the wall as I grabbed his jacket and shoved him against it. "You're done," I hissed. "We have your emails. Your recordings. Your—" He laughed, full, almost joyful. "You think any of that matters?" he said. "You think anyone will believe your father wasn't confused near the end?" Something snapped inside me. "You killed him." His smile didn't falter. I moved the process along. My world went silent. Silent in a way that didn't feel real. "You're lying," I whispered. He leaned in, breath warm against my cheek. "Am I?" I didn't remember hitting him. I didn't feel my fist connect with his jaw. Didn't feel the second or third blow. I only felt the aftermath. My hands shaking, my breath ragged. Hale sliding down the wall, dazed, eyes glazed with something between fear and fury. Then, a voice. "Stop!" I turned. Emma stood in the doorway, hair wild, eyes red from crying, face pale as moonlight, and behind her, Mark. He looked stunned, broken, like he'd finally understood the months, no years of manipulation. "Don't kill him," Emma whispered. "Please." I stepped back from Hale, chest heaving. "How did you—" "Your attorney called us," Mark said shakily. "He said you were in danger." For the first time in years, both my siblings stood on my side. The thought almost dropped me. Hale groaned, wiping blood from his mouth. "You idiots," he spat. "You think this ends with me? Harlow will bury all of you." Mark snapped. "No," he said. "We're done being afraid." Emma kicked Hale's phone across the floor, voice trembling but strong. "We're telling the police. Everything." And then, as if the universe itself wanted to confirm it, sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder, closer. Hale's eyes widened. "No, no, you don't understand." But it was over. By the time the police burst through the door, guns drawn, voices barking orders, Hale was thrashing, swearing, shouting threats about people above your pay grade. They handcuffed him, dragged him out. Silence filled the house again. A deep, aching silence. I leaned against the kitchen counter, lungs burning like I'd been underwater. Emma approached slowly. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything." Tears blurred my vision. Mark stepped beside her. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His face said all of it. The guilt, the regret, the years lost to jealousy neither of us knew he carried. We didn't hug. We weren't ready. But we stood together. For the first time in a very, very long time. 18 months later. Life didn't go back to normal. It never does after something like this. Hale cut a deal to avoid federal charges. He gave up Harlow. Harlow didn't get a deal. He got indicted. Multiple counts. Fraud. Extortion. Witness tampering. And in my father's case, suspicious circumstances contributing to death. No convictions yet, but the investigation is ongoing. My siblings dropped the lawsuit. They apologized publicly, privately, painfully. We're rebuilding. Slowly. Some wounds take time. But the house? The house is mine. Dad's house. Mom's garden. The place that held more memories than pain. I restored it. Room by room. Piece by piece. Some days I can still feel Dad here. His voice. His warnings. His love. Time doesn't heal everything, but it teaches you how to carry it. And the biggest lesson? Blood doesn't guarantee loyalty. But sometimes, if you fight hard enough, family finds its way back. Last night, Emma dropped by with dinner. Mark brought tools for the porch light. We laughed. We fought. We apologized again. We're trying. Before they left, Emma touched my arm. "He knew you'd protect it," she whispered. "Dad. He knew. Maybe he did. I like to think so." I stood on the porch after they drove away, the cicadas humming in the distance, the sky streaked with lavender and gold. The house behind me was quiet, safe.
Mine.
And as I looked at the place Dad fought so hard to protect, I whispered back to him, "I kept it. I kept us. And some doors, once you close them, should never be opened again."